California task force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans. Content warning. Contains discussions of racial discrimination, sexual assault, torture, lynching, and other forms of extreme violence. Contains unedited historical quotations and photographs of white supremacist hatred, torture, lynching, autopsy, and other forms of graphic violence.
8. Domestic violence in Black families. Domestic violence, also termed intimate partner violence, is a significant problem within Black families and communities across the country, and that problem is linked to many of the issues already discussed in this chapter. Elevated rates of domestic violence. Black women experience intimate partner violence at greater rates, and in more traumatic ways, than other women on average. 49. The U.S. Justice estimated that, in 2000, Black females experienced intimate partner violence at a rate 35% higher than that of white women. 50. In 2007, data indicated that Black women victims of intimate partner violence were twice as likely to be murdered by a spouse and 4 times as likely to be murdered by an unmarried partner when compared to white women. 151. Even among victims of intimate partner violence, Black women experience more traumatic forms of violence on average as compared to white women. 52. Moreover, Black men also experience elevated rates of intimate partner violence when compared to white men. 153. Similar patterns exist for Black LGBTQ+ victims of both genders, who experience intimate partner violence at greater rates than white LGBTQ+ victims. 154. Despite these disparities, very little academic or practical attention has been paid towards specific interventions or assistance models that are explicitly catered to Black victims. 355. Factors. Rates of domestic violence in Black families cannot be explained by a single cause. Scholars have noted that, aside from greater rates of poverty, overcrowding, and other domestic violence risk factors experienced by Black families, Black men have experienced systemic racism throughout American history that, when compounded with traditional gender roles, contribute to displaced anger, hatred, and frustration toward family members. 156. Throughout American history, Black men have been subjected to racial discrimination in employment, as further detailed in Chapter 10, Stolen Labor and Hindered Opportunity, while society simultaneously tells them that their role is to provide for their families. 57. Scholars have argued that these pressures, which are impossible to reconcile, may lead to expressions of physical violence. 358. Of the causes of domestic violence, Black women are less likely to seek assistance from social services agencies because of distrust based on the racially discriminatory history described earlier in this chapter. 359. Evidence shows that this distrust is not misplaced. Government actors in social services agencies and the judicial system have unfairly disregarded Black victims as angry, welfare queens, who are immune to violence, are violent themselves. 60. These perceptions are further cemented by media portrayals of Black women as aggressive or emasculating. 361. Similarly, Black women involved with the justice system are less likely to seek help from police because they expect to be disbelieved, based on the extensive histories of racist government actions in supporting violence against Black women as detailed in Chapters 3, Racial Terror, 11. Just legal system, and 12, Harm and neglect, mental, physical and public health. 362. Black female victims of abuse are sometimes reluctant to report abuse by Black men to the white legal system, even when police intervention is appropriate, given their long exposure to inequities within that system for African Americans. 163 is explained by Cecily Johnson, Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Domestic Violence Network. I have been told personally by a survivor they can't get help because they don't want their partner to become a statistic. African Americans experience intimate partner violence at greater rates. Very little academic or practical attention has been paid towards specific interventions or assistance models that are explicitly catered to Black victims. Genuine and legitimate fear that if they call the police, their partner could be killed or they, as the survivor, could be killed. 364. Transgender women are similarly hesitant to report abuse to the police because they fear being falsely or illegitimately arrested, are particularly likely to be physically or sexually assaulted in prison. 365. And because and 3 times as likely to experience police violence compared to non-transgender people. 66 high-profile instances of violence against transgender, and, especially when transgender women defend themselves, legitimize these fears. 367. Of understanding of the real and well-founded concerns of Black victims of domestic violence, and the distrust of Black victims of police and social services, has consistently been a major challenge among those tasked with helping victims of intimate partner violence within California and nationally. 368. Discussed above exist in California as well as nationally. California has the largest number of domestic violence survivors in the country, and Black women in California are approximately 25% more likely than women generally to experience such violence during their lifetimes. 369. Moreover, a report from Blue Shield of California concluded that Black women in particular experience a significant resource gap after instances of intimate partner violence. 70. These disparities have likely been exacerbated by the COVID-19 epidemic. Significant majorities of Black Californians surveyed saying that they believe the epidemic and its stay-at-home orders both made domestic violence more likely to occur and made it harder for victims of such violence to reach out for help. 71. Studies within California have also confirmed that Black Californians perceive poverty, prior trauma, and systemic racism as root causes of domestic violence in Black families. 372. Black female victims in California are also less likely to seek police assistance because they fear police will falsely believe them to be aggressors and arrest them as well. 373. Conclusion. Destruction, commodification, and exploitation of the Black family has occurred throughout American history and enriched both private and government actors for generations of white Americans. And sexist stereotypes created during enslavement to sustain the cotton economy and enrich the entire nation are woven throughout American laws, policies, and government agencies. These racist beliefs, Black families on the auction block during enslavement, justified re-enslaving children through the apprenticeship system, and underlie the continued removal of Black children from their parents in the foster care system. Equality has rarely been recognized, let alone remedied. To the contrary, in the past half-century government actors have blamed African Americans for the harms that have resulted from racist government actions.